Hello, I'm Norman Clark and welcome to my virtual art show gallery titled My Hero's Journey. I invite you to step on in and enjoy the show. Welcome. So this section speaks about the time when I first arrived at my friend's doorstep. I had just lost my business, my house, and my marriage. So I was pretty much dysfunctional and just going for the realms of suffering. My friends invited me to come, and this is where my journey began, and these pieces on this section of the show reflect that. This is all about arrival in a suffering state and being embraced by loving people. Journey's about exactly what it says. When I began my journey here, free of the clutter of my mind, and I started looking outward and what I wanted to say to the world itself. So journey represents me opening my soul like a flower to the world and seeing where my position lies as an artist and what I have to say. Journey has led me to look inside to my voice to the world. And these next two rooms, Humanities 1 and Humanities 2, speak about this. What I have to say to the world and my social positioning on themes that are going on right now. This is Humanities room number 1. Here we are going into Humanities room number 2. You'll see my collection of the Society of Elvises on the wall, as with some other pieces. Please enjoy. And now we have finished Journey and Humanities, and we go now into my rooms of struggle and hardships, which document my struggles, my earlier trauma and traumatic years with my parents and family, and life itself, especially with my mother. This is Struggle and Hardships, room number 2. In this, I basically speak about my childhood struggles, especially with my father. And also, this room was the beginning of my awakening and victory. Please enjoy. This is the final room on our journey together in this virtual art show. This is my victory. This is my coming out into society with my work. This is me breaking through on all levels in my life and now moving on to a new beginning with a new body of work. So that's it. That's the end of my art show, and I'd like to wrap by showing you my Spitfire. This is a scale model Spitfire that I built out of chicken wire, rebar, styrofoam, newspaper, all kinds of stuff. And I was in process of working on it when I went through all these struggles. 10 years ago, it's been in storage. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this with me and I'm going to fix it and make it fly. So this to me is signaling my departure. So here we go. Spitfire shall rise, just like I've risen out of the ashes, and shall fly on departure. Hi, this is Norman. Thank you so much for taking the time to view my virtual art show gallery, My Hero's Journey. Please stay and view my photography as well. I have a little selection for you to look at. And of course, if there's any interest in sales inquiries, please see the information at the end of the video and feel free to contact me. Thank you again and have a great day. Appreciate it. Please enjoy my other medium of work, which is photography, my first love. Enjoy the photos that I take around Los Angeles in abstract positioning of buildings and interesting architecture. These are also available for purchase. Thank you. So hey, stay tuned. If you're interested in any of the artwork, there are a series of short videos in which I explain the work directly. Enjoy, and thank you for coming. This piece is called Blowout. This speaks of a time when I first entered this house of my friends. This is some old Formula One racing cars coming to the finish line, and the lead car has a fatal blowout on his tire. This is symbolizing my life at the time. When I first came here, I lost my house, my business had failed, my wife and I broke up and she walked away with the children. Very hard time, and I showed up here at my friend's doorstep, basically in this condition. So this will be the first piece that will be in the show, and this whole show is talking about my inner and outer journey as a human being. That's what I'm calling it, My Hero's Journey. And here is my second piece of the show. This piece is called Love's Brutal Battlefield. And I think that doesn't need too much description. It was just my feeling at the time, having just broke up with my wife and, you know, lost my marriage and my children, and all at the same time. Very difficult time for me. This is called Midnight Wave. And it's basically a picture of the ocean at night and a giant wave that's coming in, full of renewal, full of determination. You know, this sky and the dark sea, that kind of represents to me the desperateness of life, or the desolation that we sometimes have to go through. And this wave coming through, just bringing in a new churning of energy and dynamic waves of change. So this is about change and transformation. So continuing with my humanities section, the first thing I'd like to show you is this piece called Sword of Faith. This is made from a crutch. I broke my foot with a spiral break when I first moved in. It was the third month after I moved in, and I was working as a house painter, and I had to work on crutches. I had a spiral break, and I was on crutches for, I think, almost 9 weeks. It literally felt my life would never be any different. So when I was done, I was so happy, because it was a time of such an immense physical, emotional, spiritual struggle and financial struggle, that this represented this time to me. So, Sword of Faith. The next piece right here, this is on paper as well. This is acrylic with spray paint and oil stick and white charcoal. This is talking about self-change. Right here is written, change yourself first. It has to be. That's what it says. It has to be. Change yourself. That's the only way we will see true and lasting world peace or change in this world, is for our own individual transformation and happiness. When we're happy, we can make other people happy. That's pretty simple. My next piece is this one here. This is titled Life Struggles. And this basically is, again, it's transformation. So the white signifies my life, or your life, emerging through this black and red haze of just chaos, symbolizing just a chaotic external view of life, and your internal life bringing forth new renewal. This is titled, And So I Begin the Great Battle. And that's really talking about your determination once you've decided that you're no longer going to sit in your situation and change things. This is talking about the great battle to change your life. And you have to start within, with yourself. So those are the hardest changes, but those are what make the outside or external world change. So this is about that, the great battle. So the series I want to talk to you about right now is called the Universe Machine series. I got this from a quote by Albert Einstein, in which he says, quote, "The universe is a machine." So I decided to use found object, which is one of my most favorite mediums to work with, and do a universe machine. So here's universe machine number 1. Basically, you can see it's built like clockwork and machine parts. This represents the Earth and the Moon. This is the Sun. And these are some of the other different planets and moving parts. So that's universe machine number 1. This is universe machine number 2. This was the second one in the series. This one really elucidates more into the ethereal nature of the universe. You know, I love those images you get from the Hubble telescope, where you just see this big swarm of color and gas and light. This was my interpretation of all of that. Universe machine number 2. So the next I'd like to show you are my small found object sculptures. These are called fragments of the universe. And I find these along my walks, when I go out walking the dog or just walking to where I want to walk. And I make these small sculptures. A lot of times I'll leave these on the street for people to find, or I'll give them as gifts, or I sell them at different art fairs, etc. But these are just little fun pieces that I love to play with. These are called fragments of the universe. And I really kind of see it as when pieces fall off of the universe machine, as it decays and renews itself, these fragments fall to earth and are assembled here by myself and converted into something else. It's kind of like the concept of how we as human beings are part of the universe as stardust which has fallen down. That's one concept, but that's my fun interpretation of it. So this is continuing with my humanities section of the show. This piece and these pieces I'm about to show you are called Growing Divisions, and they speak about how human beings, even though we're cut from the same cloth, spiritually we find nothing but ways to segment and divide ourselves through as many different means as we can. So these pieces talk about that, how we compartmentalize us and each other. But also, I'm trying to speak about how even though we're on different divisions and we're set up, we're still one thing. So the canvas or the piece represents the total of humanity, but this is how we divide and segment ourselves. But doing so doesn't necessarily mean that we need to make it such a bad thing. We can create beautiful works of art if we recognize the differences of each other and bring it together and come together as one. So this is acrylic with different other materials, i.e. charcoal, graphite, white charcoal on canvas. This piece here, this is part of my Growing Divisions as well. This is oil-based paint on a wood panel, very heavy piece. It has wonderful textures. This is part of my Growing Divisions, and then these works over here, these are all on paper. All acrylic, charcoal, graphite on paper. All speaking about our Growing Divisions. Here is what I call guns of peace. These are modeled after a sniper's rifle, and they've been cut out of 2x6 pine wood. So these are life-size, and I did this out of wood, kind of as a childhood salute to my childhood, I guess, where I used to make my toy guns and play with my friends, you know, the different types of battles and stuff that you would do as a kid. But it's also to really show that there is no such thing as a gun of peace. Just because it's made out of wood, it's still a gun, its sole purpose is to kill. So even though it is to play, this really is talking about anti-war. There is no such thing as prepare for war and prepare for peace at the same time. You cannot do it. I think Gandhi said that. So this is my homage to that. My next piece, which is on photographer's backdrop canvas, this is called The Broken Window of Capitalism. So it's meant to represent a pane of glass which is shattered. So on the outside you have all the wonderful things about capitalism, and then on the inside it's the broken window. So it's not that I'm anti-capitalist or anything, it's just showing, hey, our system could be made better, and these are some of the social issues inside that we need to address as part of capitalism. Here's my next piece. This is called, or titled rather, Question Everything. And it's on a wood panel. It's an epoxy piece over oil paint and spray paint. And these are vintage buttons that I got from a garage sale in the shape of a question mark. So question everything means exactly that. Question everything, whatever it is to do with your life. So the next piece I'd like to introduce you to is The Crying Gay Warrior. This speaks of discrimination, against gay people, especially in the military. Just because they're gay doesn't mean they're not a warrior inside. They're a human being. So this is my gay warrior. I used a Native American Indian with a mohawk as my favorite subject, one of my favorite subjects to paint and write about. And this guy here, he's a fearsome looking dude. He has a red mohawk with, little kind of feathers going off on the side. He has tears coming down and he has lipstick on. And it really speaks about, even though he's gay, he's still out there defending his people and fighting for justice. So this is Decrying Gay Warrior. This piece here speaks about the joy of life. Life takes my breath away. This shows the explosion of life and happiness from the depths of your life. This is what this piece is speaking about. And this next piece is titled Waiting for My Star to Come In. And it's a piece I did during a period in which I was questioning my struggles as an artist and whether I should continue and just leave it as a hobby and, forget about everything. And, I've put all of my angst and struggles and dreams onto the canvas so that you can read and really acknowledge my questioning and my suffering and everything I was going through, but also acknowledging the struggle and the victory, because I did continue. And, this work is standing out now as a track record of my career path. So again, thank you. And this piece is titled Waiting for My Star to Come In. So this piece here, this is titled Starting Over. So if you see, everything's pretty dark, pretty gloomy, and then you have this white colored, which is expounding from the bottom. That's symbolizing the newfound hope that you have in a dark situation. So at your darkest hour, you find your hope, and you can keep going and keep starting again. So this piece here, this is what it's saying. It's saying, be strong and love again. This is like a lover's lament. This is when you're going through the depths of, losing the one person that you was in love with and going through that whole antagonizing breakup, which I'm sure we've all been many times. Crying from the depths of your life. Some scars never heal. So I've done a blue heart to represent the sadness and sorrow. And this, I have a cut in the piece that goes all the way down here. So I've been stitching it up with some darning tape, and I've left the needle hanging here. So really the scar is never healed. This is never finished because it's not sewn here. So this goes in line with this. Some scars never heal, which is kind of love. We never get over our sorrows of love. We think we do, but it's just adding to our baggage, our life baggage, if you would. This next piece is oil on canvas, and this is a great oceanic wave of joy and of hope coming in on this stormy, dark, gloomy looking, despondent future. Here's the big blue hope coming and the fire of red of action, of winning. This is this dynamic energy, just like a wave coming in, crashing on the shores of despair. This is all about winning, not letting your environment control you. This piece here is titled Still Standing, and it's an abstract piece just with my emotions of no matter what I've been through, I am still here, I am still doing my art, I'm still fighting for a better future for myself and for my children. This is what this piece is talking about, just all the angst and all the fight. This is my energy in this piece. This piece here is on paper. This is titled A New Dawn. So right here I have a cityscape, which is still gloomy from the evening. Here is the dark of night. And here we see the sun rising and breaking through all this darkness. Cityscapes and dawns have always been very meaningful to me. because it's always symbolic of newfound hope, a new day, a new challenge, a new time to win. Life is never over until it's over, so never give up. So this is a hopeful piece. I did a series called The Society of Elvises. And basically what this is, I took my favorite image of Elvis, because that was my idol when I was a kid. I liked Elvis. And I used Elvis to represent my hero and humanities. And I did a series, I believe it was 23 wood panels that I recycled from a construction dumpster. And I created these, each individual looking Elvis panels, but each one has a stencil of Elvis which is the same. So one stencil on different panels, all completely differently finished and colors and everything. And this again represents how we're all so unique and different, yet we all are the same. I forgot to mention that I actually had 2 solo shows with these Elvises, and I think out of 23 I must have sold about 5 of them. So these are the last of the remaining Elvises, and it was a great show, so please enjoy. This is really just talking about, this is called When Nothing's Left, and it's talking about the breakup of my wife and I when we had 2 small children. It was one of my hardest things that I ever went through, the breakup of my family. So this basically is talking about a heart that's just covered in darkness and sadness. This is called I Begin the Great Battle. And there's some very deep emotional stuff written on this, and it's very dark, but really this is the beginning. This is where I started to really say enough is enough, I'm taking my life back, and really start to dig into the things that I am and that what's causing my trouble in my life, which is me. So this is talking about me having that beginning of that spiritual battle to seek self-transformation. So this is my very sad, emotional time. This piece here is called The Pain That I Feel. And it's just being an honest portrayal of the pain that I had at the time when I was going through all of this. Kind of like documenting the struggles and the frustrations that I went through. The next piece here, this is called Helpless, and basically it's about surrendering, and just when there's nothing left and all you have is your faith and your prayer. This is where I was at. All I had was my hope, my faith, and my prayers. This is called Helpless. This is titled Life is a Battle with My Darkness. And that's literally what it's talking about. It's just talking about my deep sadness, from my childhood. I had a pretty rough childhood upbringing. Family was pretty dysfunctional and fractured, very angry. So I didn't have the best childhood. So while I've been here, I've decided to go into a spiritual journey and really get past and dig all these graves up, if you would, and get all this stuff out of my life. So to do that, you have to look at it. So this is the beginning. Life is a battle with my darkness. My next piece, this is a piece about my mother. I've had a lot of anger towards my mother and my father, but my mother particularly. So this piece is basically speaking about an understanding of what she went through, what made her the way she was, how she suffered so much with my father. And so this piece is titled, Thank You, Mother, Thank You for Giving Me Life. So it talks about all the hardships with my father in this section, and then it talks about some of my angst that I have with my mum. But this is all about recognition of who she is and who she was. And this heart, which has been cut in two, is representing her heart, and I've sewn it together so that it symbolizes a new mending of the heart. Awesome. My next piece over here is titled Sheila. And this is pretty much what it is. It's dedicated to my mother, it's about my mother and my relationship, all my anger and frustration with her. I just had to get it out and be real with it and be honest. So this piece is really just talking about all the things, all the issues I had with my mother. This is called The Pain is Real, but the Night is Young. And I wouldn't say it's a very heavy piece. It's not a light-hearted piece, but it has definitely a bit of humor in there. The night is still young, so there's plenty of time for more pain. That's kind of where I was with this one. This piece is titled Through My Tears Comes the Joy of the World. And it's another piece just talking about my life state, where I was at that time, all the things that I was digging up from my childhood. This speaks about when I was at school. There's underlying writing in here which isn't clear to see, but I was bullied relentlessly at school, and that talks about that. And this talks about my marriage and my breakup and my mother, kind of everything here. But you can see the red of anger going through it, but then the yellow, which is the joy. So it's really a joyful piece. It's really about flushing all of this out. So it may seem a little heavy, but until you confront your demons and get them out, you can't really be free. So this is a joyful piece. This is titled Sometimes the Angst Rules Me. And this is basically speaking about the internal fight between the good and the dark, or the light and the dark within you, within yourself. So over here I have written Bodhisattva. So Bodhisattva is a Buddha, a protector of the earth. And then over here I have the Devil King, which in Buddhist terms, basically that's the bad guy, or the Satan, the king of the devils. So this is the battle for me, my soul, if you would, to find the good stuff. So this is the battle, but I win the battle. Hence, it's so much white in here. So this is the battle being won by the Buddha or the Bodhisattva, or the good guy within you. So my next piece, this is titled Mother, I Forgive You. And it's really just speaking about that. This is the piece which took me a very long time to get to, actually forgiving my mother. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Mother, I forgive you. And I think a lot of that was really forgiving myself, you know, for everything that I've caused. That's part of the forgiveness. My last piece over here in my section about my mother is this one here. It's called Prayer. And this is basically prayer that somehow my mother's heart is healed. She's still a very bitter, sad, angry person, and she's had a really rough life. And you know, our relationship is still very estranged. She doesn't really talk to me anymore, so all I can do to connect to her is through my prayers. And so there it is. That's my relationship with my mother. Much better than it was, but still not where I would like it. Thank you. So the next piece here, this is talking, this piece is titled Feel the Breath of Freedom. And it's just when it's talking about how this is like the imprisonment, and this, you can see the bars here, so gradually coming out of the prison to no bars. So it's the beginning of a new life, new beginnings. So this section is all talking about having gone through the pain. This is the new beginning. So this piece here is titled My Caged Heart. And you can see it's a piece of inside of an old door, and I've put wire on it, basically symbolizing how I kind of feel like trapped love-wise, you know, after the breakup of my wife. So that's just talking about that. Love always seems to be so elusive, you know. The next piece over here, this piece is called Lost in My Despair. So it's almost like I'm vomiting here my despair and anguish. So this is much of an anguishful piece, lost in my despair. My next piece here is called The True Self Emerges. And it's basically talking about how through all the darkness and struggle, there's light and there's your spirit emerging like a phoenix rising from the ashes. So this is about the new self, having flushed out all the despair and anguish and really cleaning house. And this is the beginning of a better life. So this is this piece. This piece here is titled A Well-Traveled Heart, kind of inspired by old documents we used to roll them up. So this is made out of glued together sketchbook paper, but I've kept it crinkled because I wanted it to appear like it's one of those old maps or documents that's lived and has lots of travel on it. So what I've written on this is a poem, one that has known joy and sadness, love and heartbreak, yet still loves love and yearns for another's touch. So it's talking about even though you go through so much heartache and anguish, we still all want love. No matter what we go through, we still want to be loved and to give love. That's who we are as human beings. The next piece over here, this is titled Life is Wonderful. And it still has some of the hardships and stuff on there because they are part of life. But it's really an overall outlook on life itself. No matter what happens, you can still find happiness in your own self and in your world. So this is a piece about hope and enjoying life because life is so wonderful. So this piece here is continuing with the struggles and hardships. This is about my father, and him and I had a very difficult relationship. I never really knew him. When I was young, he abused my mother, and he used to drink, and he would abuse the kids, and so it was really hard. And so this section is dealing with really me digging out my childhood trauma, the stuff that is still buried in there. So this is, a piece about me loving and forgiving my father, but also being honest at the same time. Who he really was when I knew him as a kid. He passed away last year and we never had the opportunity to really chat or reconcile. And unfortunately, he really suffered in the end for a long time. So, I really miss my dad. I wish I'd have known him. So this is my reconciliation with my father. The next piece here is basically, again, me dealing with my childhood trauma, just talking about all the things that went on in my family and my school life and all the things that really just, impacted me and my growth as a person, which I didn't really see until later on in life. This next piece here is called Light Your Own Path. And it's really about you taking control of your life and getting on with it. And you've dug up the bodies that are in your life and you've got them out. So it's about renewing your life now after all the pain has been pulled out of it. So light your own path ahead. The next piece here, this is an abstract piece obviously, and it's titled River of New Beginning. So this is where it's like coming out of the forest and seeing the beautiful field ahead. So this is my river of light. This is my river of light over the darkness and the pain. River of new beginning. So my final piece for my section about struggles and hardships is this piece here called Draw Your Sword. It's actually in a private collection, so they've graciously allowed me to include it as it's an important piece. So this kind of brings ahead to everything that I went to. So the whole painting though, funny enough, is right here. It's this little blue line, which is action and indecision. So the whole piece talks about that moment of decision as to which way you're going, one way or the other. Obviously, draw your sword means that you're going to fight the good fight. So this is what you get in your life when you draw your sword and do the things that make you happy, i.e. as an artist. And over there, sheathing your sword is basically where you're cowering and, you know, you're not fulfilling your mission or your purpose. Love this piece, one of my favorites. Glad it's got a great home. So this piece here is called A Life's Journey, and it's been made out of sketchbook paper which is glued together, and it's basically telling the story, my story, from when I was a child all the way to here. So on here, on this side, my left side, you'll see this is heavily written. This is all my struggle and all my pain from my childhood. I had a pretty rough childhood. And the internal part of the body, this is the actual transformation, me going through my stuff and what's changing. And then on the other side, you'll see there's very little written. This is because this is where I'm at now. This is my new beginning. There's my piece, a life's journey. This piece here, this is a self-portrait. I've titled this The Awakening. And basically it's symbolizing my being, my soul emerging from my cocoon of ego. So you can see that the external world is red and harsh, you know, but here the blue, which is my blue light, which is coming out. This is awakening of my spirit. This is my self-portrait. Again, I've shot this on, I've made this on sketchbook paper glued together to symbolize kind of a patchwork life. There you have it. And now for a brief exterior moment in my virtual art tour. This is a piece which I'm still kind of working on. It's almost done. This is called When the Curtain Falls, and it speaks about my father's death. My father and I really did not have a great relationship. He wasn't such a great dad, but still, he's your father. What can you do? And it took me a lot of time to really forgive him. And he talks about me having an okay situation with his passing. Not that I relish it, but he suffered for so long, and I thought it was just a completion of his life. So this speaks about moving on, about revealing the good. See all this messed up part. This is how I feel my life was, and this is how I feel my life is now. Down here I've written, my old self is no longer. All my pain I forgive. For the pain that I have caused, I ask forgiveness. So it's really speaking about me forgiving my father and asking him to forgive me, and not just my father, but everybody that I've caused pain to, and everybody that's caused me pain, I forgive. So this is a piece about forgiveness and moving on. So this piece here is called I Emerge, and it's really about me declaring, not only to myself, but to the universe, that I am a changed man, and I am now ready for a new beginning and to begin my new life. So this piece is talking about transformation, but emerging, so the victory of transformation, or breaking out of the cocoon shell. This is my emerging piece. I emerge. Now see, wasn't that much easier than trying to find parking at a gallery?